uh finished the second chapter of Zybook, which I'll be tested on. And now I'm going over all the lecture slides, and I don't know how to do that other than to just use AI to form quizzes and then going over those quizzes. I'm not sure if that's a good study method, but that's just what I'm using for today. So, yeah, let's go. In Python, what is the primary advantage of using a default dictionary from the collections module over a standard dictionary? So I think in a default dictionary, it stores keys in sorted order. I don't know about the order, but it does store keys, right? Like keys are functions. I don't know what the difference is between keys and functions, but maintains the order in which items were inserted. It only allows hashable objects as keys. It provides a default value for a key that does not exist, avoiding a key error. I think it's D, but it could be A because it does store keys. But okay, let's. When a non-existent key is accessed, default dictionary automatically creates an entry with a default value. For example, 0 for int and an empty list for list. All right, next question. The interquartile range is a measure of statistical dispersion. How is it calculated? So I think the interquartile range is usually the median, if I'm not mistaken, or at least the second uh quartile, right? I think it's this one. But it's also, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's C because the 50th percentile is the median and IQR is the median as well. So what would this be? I'm not sure, but I think it's C. What I was no. So the interquartile range measures the spread of the middle 50% of the data, making it a robust measurement of dispersion that is not affected by outliers. Okay, so that was my first guess, but this median thing, but that's not how you calculate it though. That is which is measure of central tendency, not dispersion. Okay. So which Python f-string syntax? Welcome viewers. Which Python f-string syntax correctly embeds the variable first name and last name into a new string called full name? So you would need to assign to the variable full name, yes, an f-string. It looks closer like this. Yes, yes, yes. So you have f apostrophe first name last name, right? But this looks, I mean, this space looks good here, but I'm not sure. Because I remember there was like an apostrophe for F, but that could have been something else. That could have been like for integers where you put like 0.02 at the end. So I think it's D. Oh, golly gosh darn. I was right. But I was wrong at the same time because this space thing threw me off. So this is the correct syntax for an F string using an F prefix and placing variable names directly inside curly braces. Okay, what this is not it, right? Because the syntax incorrectly treats F as a function call rather than as a prefix for a formatted string literal. Oh, okay. So, um, yeah, string literals don't need this plus thing, okay? Got it. Welcome, viewers. Algorithmic bias is a serious ethical issue where a model produces unfair outcomes. So, what is a common source of this bias? I think, from what we went over in Cyborg, is that you train the computer to using a certain demographic of people. Um, I don't remember D. I don't know what this is. I think it's this one. Yeah, the training data set. Yeah, underrepresentation or bias outcomes in the original training data set. Yes, yes, yes. All right, next. Next off, we have for a matrix multiplication operation between matrix A and matrix B, A dot B, what condition must be met regarding their dimensions? So, when you're doing the dot product, you have to make sure that the dimensions are equivalent to each other. Otherwise, how are you going to do, like, let's say, the third, welcome back, Mr. Yavin. And hello, Hussein Bot. Hello, Hector Bonilla. Hello, what the F is this? This is Python studying, cramming, making uh, AI quiz to go over certain questions. So the number of columns, not columns, the number of rows, not rows, the number of column. Oh wait, sorry. I was thinking dot product with vectors, but this is matrix. Okay, so matrix A and matrix B. So the inner, right? The inner numbers have to be equivalent, not the outer ones. The outer ones could be different. Let's say I times j dot j times k. So the j's have to be equal. The way I remember which side is rows and columns is that you have like a race car. So rows come first. So the columns are the second part, right? So the column, so the number of columns in A must be equal to the number of rows in B. So race car, remember that, guys. Clean my keyboard, bruh. Fine. It doesn't really matter if there's cat hair, but oh well. What is the primary characteristic of unstructured data? I think from what we went over in Cyborg is that unstructured means when it's not in a table format. So it does not have a predefined format or requires conversion before analysis. It consists only of numerical values and can be easily analyzed. No, that is definitely structured. It is stored in a predefined format with features in columns and instances in rows. No, that's also structured. It is always much smaller in volume than in structured data. I'm not sure about that, but maybe maybe it's D though, but I think it does not have predefined format. Yeah. So unstructured data such as text, images, or audio files lacks a rigid data model and must be processed to extract meaningful structured information. Okay. Next. Let's go. Done. So I did 73%. That's pretty bad. But we could always retake it. I mean, I think we'll retake all the quizzes by the end. You don't understand this? Yeah, that is a cat in my profile picture. Um welcome to the stream, Irene Kia. Yeah, there's a lot of weird people, but you gotta do what you gotta do to stay more accountable. I don't know why you wanna touch my fingers, but you can't do that. So let's go to the second quiz. Where is the second quiz? I'm pretty sure it was here somewhere. Okay, I forgot which one I did. There's a lot of data science ones. Mm, let's do technical quiz. I don't think we did that one. Okay. So in the context of algorithm analysis, if a function's time complexity is described as zero, whatever that is, what is its complexity class or order? What the heliante is that supposed to mean? I think omega n3 seems the most fitting because the order starts off with the highest degree. But if I'm mistaken, I completely understand. Okay, I guess that's right. So when determining the order, we focus on the term that eventually dominates, which is the highest order term in this case n cubed. Nice. So, which of the following tree traversal methods processes the root node after processing both its left and right subtrees? So you do left first and then right and then you do root. That'd be post, right? So you post, you know what post means? Like after. So yeah, post order traversal. That's pretty simple. According to the provided material, with which Python data structure is described as an immutable ordered collection, often specified using parentheses. So immutable. That's the telling part, right? Tuple. Only tuples are immutable. So what is the primary purpose of using a default dictionary from Python's collections module? This is like the last quiz that we did. If I remember correctly, it provides a default value for a key that does not. Yeah, this one. All right. So, in statistics, what is the interquartile range? The different. No, 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 not that one. I almost pressed that one. So the value, no, this is the mode. So the average distance of each data point from the mean. Um, I'm pretty sure it's B, but if it were A, that would make sense. Okay, the interquartile range measures the spread of the middle 50% of the data calculated as Q3 minus Q1. Nice. So, what is the key difference between descriptive and inferential statistics? What does the chat think? Um, bro, I still don't even understand photosynthesis. Well, if you can spell it, that's pretty impressive itself. Um, at least from watching this, you'll get some sort of idea of something that you don't already know. You know, maybe you learn something. My my collar is blue and my neck is red. I've been working like a dog just to keep my. I'm pretty sure I heard that song, but I don't know. Only through a reel. Okay, so what is the key difference between descriptive and inferential statistics? So descriptive statistics uses visualizations. Inferential statistics rely solely on numerical calculations. I think it's A. I think it's A, even though I haven't read these. But let's see. Descriptive statistics summarize observed data. Hmm. No, it was B. Okay, I guess I should have read all of them instead of skimming. I don't know. Both branches of statistics utilize visualizations and numerical summarizers to analyze and present data. Thank you for subscribing, Hussein Bot. Let's see. Descriptive statistics describe features of the data, mean, median, whereas inferential statistics use sample data to make predictions or inferences about a larger population. Who is that? Welcome, welcome. We are going over the quiz, and somebody wants to join. Never mind. So let's try to remember the key difference between descriptive and inferential statistics, shall we? So what is it? Descriptive statistics summarize observed data, right? You observe and then you describe. While inferential statistics draws conclusion about a population from a sample. I know, right? I love cats too. So, which of the following is an example of data anonymization through data grouping? Let's see. I mean, A is one way to anonymize somebody, but um, slightly altering a person's recorded annual income by small random amount. It could be C, right? Because from what we've seen, changing a numerical value of like a currency by $1,000 is one way to, um, you know. Oh, that's data shifting, not data grouping. Okay, so it's not C, but moving the entire address column from a public data set. No, that's just crazy. It's either A or B, right? And this seems the most common sense. But combining specific job titles is also grouping. Yeah, yeah, I think it's B. Okay, so we got that. Nice. May I ask, are you studying for an exam? Yes. Yes, this is for an exam. I would never do this for fun. So, yeah, if I did not have to take an exam, I would be doing something else with my time, maybe wasting it, but so that's yeah. The dot product of two vectors result in what type of mathematical object? A scalar. A scalar, yes. If a matrix A has rows 3 and 4 columns, and matrix B has 4 rows and 2 columns, what is the shape of the resulting matrix from the product of A and B? It would be 3 by 2, right? Because I would say 3 by 2, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Because what about the 4 columns? What are you gonna do with that? Never mind then. Never mind. I was all right. I was right. What defines a binary search tree? A tree where all leaf nodes are the same? I think we did this question. This one, yeah. Okay, so the values on the left have to be less than all the values on the right side. Okay, what is Simpson's paradox? I remember this. Sometimes you could have a person do worse on one exam and then do better on the next exam, or like on one side compared to another person they're doing worse, but in the end result they do better because the exams are kind of flipped. Like it's not. Yeah, let me see. I think a C, right? Because an ethical dilemma is not it. All right, so a statistical phenomenon where a trend appears in several different groups of data, but disappears or reverses when these groups are combined. Yes. This paradox highlights how an association observed in aggregate data can be misleading and different from the associations within subgroups. Next. Which Python code snippet demonstrates a list comprehension to create a list of squares for numbers 0 through 4? Let's repeat that again. Which Python code snippet demonstrates a list comprehension to create a list of squares for numbers 0 through 4? Well, the range has to be 5, right? Because you can't include the last part of the range. So it has to be for. Well, these all look the same, honestly. This is pretty. I think it's C, right? Because you have to. No, 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 no. It has to be parentheses. But I don't know. I like brackets. It's not about what I like, though. Squares. Maybe it's A. Nope, it was C. I like brackets for a reason, okay? So this is the correct Pythonic syntax for list comprehension using square brackets to build a new list by transforming elements from an iterable. Okay, so let's see. Remember. Alright, so create a list of squares from 0 to 4 A's using the brackets. Okay, next. 83, not bad, not bad. Let's see. Alright. Closing that up, we have let's do the coding quiz. All right, in the context of algorithm analysis, what does big O notation represent? The upper bound, right? We did this already. Mm, that's true, Jose. That's very, very true. That's why humans, they can't stop thinking, right? That's why we have to replace it with adhkar. Adhkar. I know you know what that is, right? You're Muslim. So, mm, yeah. Next. What is a tree traversal algorithm with its nodes level by level from top to bottom, left to right? Top to bottom, left to right. It has to be in order. Ah! Level order. Okay. That's what I was thinking. In order is the left root and then the right, but in order it sounded like level order, right? I didn't even read the thing, so yeah. Don't be hasty. Hasty comes from Shiflon. According to the data science lifecycle described in the source material, what step typically follows gathering data? Cleaning data. Yeah, we did this. Which of the following Python data structures is immutable, tuple? I don't know why it's asking the same question. Like, I put so many different. Hmm. What were they doing with the cow in the first place? They were milking it because the baby was drinking it, right? And they were like, if this is good for the baby, maybe it's good for us. And then they were trying to, you know, see if they could try it, and they were like, wait, this is pretty good. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, God, He has this way of guiding humans to do what is best for their survival. We think it's our credit, but it's actually Allah's guidance. The way that we get steak from cows, right? Like we slaughter the cow and then we eat the cow's meat. Who knew you had to slaughter them to begin with? But they are made for our, um, eating purposes and just utilizing the whole thing in general. But I get it that saying, that question came from somebody who's trying to think it kind of rhetorically. It's kind of a rhetoric question because they were thinking like, oh, that person must have been weird. But honestly, if you think deeply about it, it's just God's guidance. So, alhamdulillah. In statistics, what is a type 1 error? Um, I think rejecting a null hypothesis that is true. What is the primary characteristic of a binary search tree? Oh, we did this one. Um, mm, yeah, collections. I'm not learning anything new. I don't know why it's asking the same thing. Oh, I think. Oh, bruh, I got the same question wrong. I think I already did this question. That's why. Oh, I mean this quiz. A data scientist changes the data set by adding a small random amount to each person's recorded income. This is data shifting. What is the dot product of vectors? Oh, I guess I gotta calculate it. So 2 times 4 is 8. Plus -6 is 2. Plus -5 is 3. -3, yes. So when analyzing a function's time complexity, such as Tn equals blah blah blah, which term is most important, is the n to the third degree. Yes. What's the key difference between correlation and causation? Correlation implies. What do you think? I live beside my neighbors, and my neighbors lives beside my house. I think that's a very important observation. Otherwise, how could you tell whether they're a neighbor or not? Because you could call someone from the other side of your country a neighbor, right? Because you guys are living in the same country. Well, he's my neighbor compared to someone who lives in a different country. So whoever's closer to you is your neighbor. What is the key difference between correlation and causation? Correlation describes a statistical relationship between two variables. Okay, this seems like the right answer. Oh no, this is definitely wrong. Correlation does not cause causation. Does not equal causation. So correlation implies a relationship between one variability directly causes a change in another, while causation is a statistical association. Okay. Okay, 83 again. Not bad, not bad. Let's see if we could get an A somewhere. Um, I need to like make it so that it's not using all six sources to make these quizzes, bro. I need one source per thing. Let's see if we can do that. So we create a new notebook and then we upload a source. Let's say I think linear algebra is most important right now because it had a lot of stuff in there. So quiz that. We have based on one source now. Okay. The rest we could just delete because they're all using six sources. We need to be more intentional with what we're doing. Okay, so upload a source. Statistics is second most important. We need to prioritize our quizzes based on importance, not just in order, right? That's my biggest mistake. I always just do stuff in order and then run out of time to study what's more important and then fail the quiz. And we need to just figure out a way to study better more than just assuming that we're just dumb because we're not. No one is dumb. No one in the world is dumb. And if they are, then it's not their fault because that happens. You know, well, like where do you think the word retard comes from? Someone with the mental health issue. It's not their fault. So you don't choose your mental health uh settings. So we did this. Data ethics. I'm just gonna do the same for all these questions. All right. Hopefully the quiz here is done. All right, linear quiz. Let's do this now. So, are you in high school? Because my brain cannot comprehend this language. I'm actually not. I'm in university, but I'm just. I don't know. I feel like when I'm on stream, like I have this different kind of persona where I try to act smarter just because I'm studying, but I'm not as smart as I'm sounding or trying to sound, I guess. According to the provided material, how does the computer science perspective primarily define a vector? Well, it is an arrow pointing in space defined by its length and direction, but in computer science, I think this is what it means, right? Because as a point in a finite dimensional space that cannot be moved, vectors can move. I think it's C. What? An ordered number? That was my last guess, bro. Because you can have a vector that's not ordered, right? But I guess I was wrong. This view aligns with how data is often structured and stored in arrays or lists in programming contexts. Okay, that shows like we didn't study this. All right, so C equals -3. Obviously, -6 first, right? You're gonna have to do the whole computation. So the magnitude. So calculating the magnitude, to do that, we just multiply it by itself, that vector. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 3 times 3 is 9. Adding those, we get 11. 6 times 6 is 36. 11 plus 36 is 47. Why is 49? What the hell, Leon? Take. Oh, I forgot you have to take this. Square root. Okay, so 40. Okay, so I did the addition wrong. It was supposed to be 49 with the way I was doing it. We also have to take the square root of 49, which is 7. So that makes sense. It's really tripping me out, this quiz. It's see, this is why we have to study. Dang, Steelers are losing 7-3. I'm gonna cry. The Giants ain't even that good game. Well, I hope your team wins because a lot of people get really emotional over that because they bet money on it, but you can't bet, right? Betting is haram. I mean, Packers. 6 foot hole and it was about 7 feet. So Beetlejuice, we're not gonna talk about him. What is the color of a carrot? You know, carrots come in different colors. It could be purple carrot, yellow carrot, orange carrot, rainbow carrot. That's what they call it. What is the dot product of the vectors v1 and vectors v2? 2 times 4 is 8 plus 0 plus negative 3. 8 plus negative 3 is 5. Next, we have the formula for the dot product is given as v times w as this formula. Okay, what does the dot product equal if two non-zero vectors v and w are perpendicular, orthogonal? Okay, so orthonormal gives 1, orthogonal gives 0. So for the matrix product A times B to be defined, what conditions must be met? Alright, we went over this, right? Rows, column must be equal to the number of rows. Yeah. What is the transpose of the matrix? So it's 2 and 3, like this. Yeah. Easy, easy, easy. Given a system of linear equation represented by the matrix equation A, x equals b, what is the formula to solve for the solution vector x? Now, this is where it gets a little tricky, right? Because we don't know. We're not sure. All right, the sun went down, so we need some study light here. So, system of linear equation represented by the matrix equation A times x equals b. Ax equals b. What is the formula to solve for the solution vector x? Okay, so that means we move A to the other side. That'd be a uh a inverse, right? A, because the matrix A is a matrix. A inverse. But what is why is this? I think it's B then. No, oh, it was C. I was literally pointing at it. Okay, so that's confusing, right? Because these two look the same, but you have to keep in mind the order in multiplying a matrix. It's not it doesn't hold a commutative property, right? So to isolate x, one must pre-multiply both sides of the equation by the inverse of the matrix. I mean, that's what I was thinking, because A inverse would have to be on the right side of both. I'm not sure, but I guess it has to be on the left side here. Our school banned phones. Do you know who Tech Joyce is? No, I don't know who that is, but I mean, school banning phones is probably a good thing, but also a bad thing if you need to record your lectures and stuff. But phones are more distracting. At least your country didn't ban phones like Afghanistan did. Apparently, they banned internet altogether, which is crazy. That is insane because how internet is, it has good and bad, but you can't really stop everyone from using it just because people misuse it. You can misuse anything. You can misuse your fists, and then you have to get rid of your fists. Alright, in NumPy, which function performs element-wise multiplication of two matrices of the same size as opposed to matrix multiplication? Which function performs element-wise multiplication? Multiply? Element-wise? Dots. Hmm. That seemed too straightforward. Like, why is the answer in the question? Anyways, this function multiplies matrices by pairing corresponding elements, which is distinct from the dot product method of matrix multiplication. Yeah, this function is used for standard matrix multiplication, which involves calculating the dot product of rows and columns. Nice. So we put the opposite answer. Okay. Second to last question, using the formula projection b of a equals that calculates the projection of the vector a equals 2 3 onto vectors b equals 5 0. I gotta calculate this. Oh my god. Okay, so a times b would be 2 5 would be 5 on the numerator, right? And then the magnitude of b would be 25, which is 5 on the denominator. What was the numerator again? I forgot. Okay, so 10 over 5, that's 2 times b is 10 0. How come there is no 10 0? Let me see. Oh, wait, no, wait, hold on. It can't be a vector. 10 0. If you do scalar, if you multiply a vector by a scalar, would it give you a scalar? Would it give you a vector? But there's no 10 0 here. What do y'all think? You know what? I hate how smart you are, so I'm gonna do this. Find the value of x. Oh my god. I hate x. I will never find x. I think it's 10. Nope, it was this. But why is it 2 then? If 10 over 25, but isn't the magnitude supposed to be 5? Therefore 2? If the magnitude of b is supposed to be square rooted. This is what? So the magnitude of b squared. Don't forget the square. Oh my god. So with the magnitude of b would have been 5, right? If 5 squared is back to 25. Okay. The squared in the denominator is really important. I forgot the square root, let alone the squared back. So we basically cancel out the square and the square root. Okay, so b makes sense. All right, last question of this quiz. The cross product b times w is defined for two vectors in three-dimensional space. What is the primary characteristic of the resulting vector? No hate though. It was a joke in case you didn't know. Yeah, yeah. I know you're joking. That's. I was not like offended or anything. That was not even offensive anyway. So, I guess. Anyways, so what's the primary characteristic of the resulting vector? I think the cross product has to be another vector. It's not a scalar, so it is a vector, but it has to be orthogonal or a projection. I think it'd be a projection, right? No, it was orthogonal. Okay, vector projection and cross products are distinct operations that describe different geometric relationships. Okay, so I was confused about the orthogonal versus a projection, but I guess cross products are meant to be orthogonal to their results. 45%! And you think I am smart. I cannot imagine what is not smart. But it's like I did the quiz without studying, so it's like yeah, makes sense why the score is low. I'm not gonna say that I'm not smart just because I yeah. Hopefully it will help on the quiz. So let's do this statistical quiz now. Are we ready for the second quiz? This is 12 questions. I like how they keep the quiz like short, but I'm not sure how helpful that is. Do we need a break or anything? Do we need to pray Maghrib? Hey, like I said, I barely can simplify an improper fractions. So honestly, I don't even remember like what I don't know, like what I struggle with. It's hard to list that and remember that. So that's smart in and of itself to be able to see where you struggle and like remember that and mention that. But that also makes me wonder that like maybe you do have an idea how to do it. So a data scientist is imputing missing values for a feature representing income, which is known to be right skewed and high value outliers. Which measure of standard the most robust? Okay, we did this question like 3 times and got it wrong each time, so it has to be the median. Golly. A researcher is studying a student satisfaction across the university. They divide the population into college. Example, engineering, art, science, randomly select 3 colleges and then survey each student within those 3 selected colleges. Which sampling method is best used? Mm, if there's randomly selecting, then it's random sampling. What? Cluster sampling? Okay. This method involves dividing the population into groups and then randomly selecting. Wait, so why do we do cluster? Wait, let's read ahead. So, okay, cluster it is. In hypothesis testing. Okay, well, I'm a ghost, so I wish you good luck on your exam. You got this. Thank you, Mr. Hussein, and goodbye. Have a good rest of your day. In hypothesis testing, a pharmaceutical company concludes that their new vaccine is more than 65% effective, when in reality, it is less than 65% effective. Okay. Well, they didn't say what the null hypothesis was. If the null hypothesis is that it is less than 65, then if they rejected that, it'd be type 1. But I'm not sure if that's the null hypothesis. Let's see. Let me think. It is less than 65. Maybe it's type 2 because I would think that less than 65% is the null hypothesis. Yeah. Okay, which of the following describes ordinal data? It's, I'm getting tired. Um, After this quiz, we're gonna end the stream and then come back. The ordinal data because the categories have a natural, meaningful order, but this distance between them is not defined. A study finds a strong positive correlation between ice cream sales and the number of drowning incidents. What is the most likely explanation for this relationship? The correlation is purely coincidental and has no underlying explanation. Drowning incidents cause an increase ice cream sales as a form of coping. No. Eating ice cream directly causes people. No. Third variable, such as warm weather. Yes. When calculating the variance of a sample, the sum of square deviations from the mean is divided by n minus 1. What is the primary reason for using this denominator instead of n? Well, it's not d, right? Because what if the number was high? You're not making it any smaller by subtracting only 1. So, to ensure variance value is always an integer? What do you mean? Could it not be an integer if you didn't subtract 1? How could you even subtract 1 if it weren't an integer? To account for any potential outliers within the sample data, how does that account for any potential outliers? But I think it could be B, because this makes more sense than the last two. To provide a better unbiased estimate of population variance from the sample data. A better unbiased estimate of the population variance from the sample data. Since the viewer drop count, since the viewer count dropped, I'm getting a little unmotivated. I'm not gonna lie. Provide a better. No. Unbiased estimate of the population variance from the sample data. By dividing n minus 1 known as Bessel's correlation. Correction, adjusting for the fact that a sample mean is used, providing a more accurate estimate of the true population variance. Adjusting for the fact that a sample mean is used. Okay. Okay, Bessel. I got you. I see you. So the interquartile range that's data distribution that has a long tail extending to the left. So the long tail extending to the left, it's less skewed. It's like this. Positively skewed. I always get this wrong. It's so confusing because skewed is making a positive, like, it's making like a positive trend, but the skew is what you have to take account of. So the skew is left. That means the skew is negative. It's facing the negative side. So you're not looking at the trend, you're looking at the skew. So a data set of test scores has a mean of 75 and a standard deviation of 5. A student scores 85. That's 2 standard deviations. I don't even have to read the whole question or know the answer. Which branch of statistics uses data from a sample to make predictions or draw conclusions about a larger population? We went over this. Descriptive or inferential? I think it's inferential because you're drawing conclusions. A university claims its average graduate salary is $60,000. Wow. A researcher wants to challenge this claim, believing that the average is lower. He's back for round two. Dude, there's nobody watching anyway. I just do this for accountability purposes.
Crying and crying and crying.
Why?
Because he's bored.
Well, I don't care.
You have to care.
So, believing that average, a researcher wants to challenge this claim, believing the average is lower. What is the correct formulation for the null and alternative hypothesis? A researcher wants to challenge this claim. is, what is this? I think it's less than. I'm gonna see what this is. I think it's equal. If it's, we can ignore that. And it is 60,000. And that's equal. Wow. It's average. Okay. Oh, it has to be lower. I didn't even look at the other. Okay.
So you need to fill it out.
This kid. My golden goblet.
Right?
It is!
It needs.
He's not golden. Hey! Next. What statistical phenomenon? It fell. He was there. Bruh. If he's not here, his remnants are here.
Why you keep eating?
So, what statistical phenomenon is described as a trend appearing in several different groups of data that reverses when the groups are combined? Oh, Simpson's paradox. Easy, easy, easy. 67! Mm. Mm.
He ate and drank and ran around. And actually,
So what does he want then?
he wants us to hang out outside while he watches the stars.
Well, tell him 18.5 hours before an exam ain't the best time to do that. It's actually just less than 18 now. Python defines code blocks compared to many other languages that use curly braces. Curly braces is used. Python uses keywords like begin and end to delimit blocks of code. Python uses colons to delimit blocks of code. Python uses parentheses to delimit blocks of code. Python defines code blocks compared to many other languages that use curly braces. I think parentheses. Indentation. Okay. Got it. Got it. If you have a list, x equals this, would be the slice. What would the slice 1 to -2 produce? -2 would be -2 from the back. It would be 20 to 30. But I don't know. Yeah, I do know. Oh, I'm so tired. I've been using my brain so much. I think I'll end it here though.